Hey everyone, so you guys had a lot of interesting stuff to say about the video, and this is Kurena's reply, which is basically where I just read comments from you guys and highlight them in my videos. And I feel like it would be important for me to do some of these in between the series to give more of an understanding of how these issues are affecting people, because a lot of you guys are actually medical professionals. Like a big part of my audience are medical professionals, which is very helpful. I couldn't have asked for a better audience to get out of that whole controversy, because it lets me know if what I'm saying makes sense or not, because I'm not a medical professional. I just like do research on stuff, and I'm really into psychology, but I'm not a professional. At the beginning of my videos, I always put text saying that what I'm saying is not licensed, it's not lectorial, it's none of that stuff. Like, I'm not a professional. So you said, Mary, I'm glad you covered the importance of mental health support on TikTok. The app doesn't make people evil and helps to connect people. Already evil people with ill intention think of how to profit off of it, and making fun of it, pranks and diss tracks because the norm to include attacking mental health. It started slow, then evolved to pranks on kids, on pranks on elderly and disabled, and now we out and out just making videos saying people are wrong and faking. Even if they are faking, so what? They're not attacking or hurting anyone, just to cry for help. Seeking attention the same way a mentally ill person would says way more about people than making videos saying they are faking than potential fakers themselves. I have empathy for anyone who has the need to feel as though they have to do that. However I feel for them, I don't feel I want to attack them. Great video, Kurena. Thank you. And yeah, it's getting to the point where one thing I want to add is that it's worse than that. It's like people used to make fun of mentally ill people on YouTube, and now that's not cool anymore. So people are like basically doing the next best thing, which is making fun of people who are faking mental illness, but those people are mentally ill as well. And I get into that in part 3. It's coming up, but it's to the point where it's like they know. They know that they're picking on mentally ill people because they're always picking on people who are easy to pick on, the vulnerable. That's the whole point of bullying. But you got to think about, why are they vulnerable? They're either in a desperate situation or they're mentally ill. The reason why they won't be able to effectively argue against you is because they're suffering from some sort of learning disability, most likely, or a mental disorder. And a lot of the people in oompaville's video, like a lot of them registered as sort of like autistic or something. Like they have some sort of, they're on the spectrum of something. And I'm sure that some of you guys noticed that as well. So it's just really offensive to see him making fun of them and screaming at some of these people. I mean, some of these people didn't look like all the lights were on upstairs, So for you to make fun of that, again, deep down they know, because they're going after vulnerable people. And that's all I can really say about it. So many great points indeed. Why not leave people be if it's not affecting your life in any way, shape, or form? It's because it is affecting their life. It's because, and I get into this later in the series, but they are upset at the fact that people who are quote unquote faking mental illness are getting more attention than they ever did for their mental illness. That's why they all bring up their mental illnesses. Like, well, I have this, I have that, I have this, I have that, as they're putting down someone else. If you want to talk about your mental illness, that's fine. If you want to share your trauma and stuff, that's okay. But when it's to the detriment of someone else's experience, and that it shows that there's some projection going on in there, some sort of jealousy factor, you're taking it personally for some reason, you're having a trauma response. And I get into the whole trauma response thing in like part 5 and 6, one of the 2 parts. We'll see. It's a long series. This is going to be like a 10-part series, you guys. But yeah, it's a trauma response. If it had the potential to hurt someone, it shouldn't be done. But it's never about right or wrong on social media. It's about views and clout. I want to make a video about it, but it's sad because all commentary channels face this rot within the commentary community that I'm talking about. The Ouroboros cycle. People have to prioritize, do I want views out of this or do I want integrity? And even myself, I've had to do this. Like when Curtis was criticizing me constantly for my horrible format, my horrible editing style, and my long videos and this and this and that. It's like, what people don't realize is that the reason why my arguments, from what you guys have told me, are very sound, and I make a lot of good points. A lot of you guys ask me to do a live where I live react to something and I like pause and play. And it's like, I'm not doing that in my videos. I'm not just live reacting. I go in with inserts and stuff because I review my video several times to weed out hypocrisy and to weed out any contradictions or whatever, to expand on the arguments that I'm making live so that it's a more sound argument. I used to not do that. I used to just, respond for the most part, maybe have a few inserts, but now I'll review the same video like 15 times sometimes. Some of these hour-long videos I've watched 15 times over before I put them up. Like, it's a lot of work that goes into those videos that people don't understand, but the work is going into the argument and the actual points being made, not the editing itself. I would need a very expensive editing program to be able to have good editing and good arguments. But most people are just obsessed with the clout because everybody's doing it. Everyone's talking off the top of their head, so they're not really going to get called out by anybody for making these bad arguments because they're all doing it. So it's just this toxic cycle that I try not to participate in. It doesn't mean I'm perfect, but I try to avoid it. The part where he mentions people with actual mental illness not getting triggered by fakers threw me because even if they are mimicking symptoms, it still could be something like schizophrenia because there's a lot of mimicking as a symptom of the condition. It threw me for a loop because he literally got triggered. He screamed at somebody. Like, how are you gonna, is this do as I say, not as I do? Like, but you have 4 million subs. You're literally an influencer. So it's kind of important for you to cut out. He could have cut it out. I got triggered by him, you guys. Like, I was mean, okay? I cut out a lot of stuff because I told you it's not resonating since I've, like, calmed down and stuff. What he did, a lot of my video was more so empathetic in the sense where I'm like, he really doesn't know what he's talking about. But there were points where what he was doing triggered me when I initially reacted. So I literally mocked some of the things that he said. I called him a maniac. Like, I cut all that stuff out because it was unnecessary. He easily could have cut out screaming at that person, but he thought it was justified because he was having a trauma response. Like, there's some stuff that he said in his original video. That's why I recommend you watch his original video that I didn't leave in there, where he's like talking about, when we dissociate, it's because we go through this and this and that. I'm like, you need to calm down, dude. Like, these are mentally ill people. These are kids and young adults who just don't understand what's going on, or they're desperate. They're coming from a place of pain. They're suffering in some way to be doing this. Like, these people are mentally unwell. Whether you want to call it a disorder, whether you want to call it a mental illness, these are people who are mentally unwell that you're getting angry at. Like, you need to calm down. And I can't sit here and tell him to calm down if I'm like, you fucking maniac, So he should have just cut it out. He just wasn't thinking. You said, the reason it takes so long is, yes, the stigma to diagnose, but many conditions themselves mimic other conditions, or the mimicking in mental health is a symptom of the other mental conditions. What a topic indeed, and thanks for your input. When I get to, like, all my shit with my mental illnesses and stuff, you guys, because that is coming, like, I have ADHD, and a lot of mental illnesses center around ADHD. Like, a lot of them. I have PTSD. A ton of mental illnesses connect to PTSD. It's not, I have PTSD and this and that and this and that and this and that and ADHD and this and this and this and this. It's like, I have PTSD, I have ADHD. Everything else is like a symptom of those two things. So it's very easy to have a lot of confusion as to, well, I dissociate a lot. Do I have DID? I could be the kind of person who genuinely wonders if I have DID based off of some of the symptoms. I know that I don't have that, but I also know that I dissociate a lot. So I'm on the dissociative spectrum to some degree, and I am literally seeing professionals trying to understand what is going on in my head for me to be able to dissociate in the strange way that I do, because it's not normal. So I'm trying to see people about it, but you just get labeled as some TikToker who, is just diagnosing yourself on TikTok when I'm seeing neurologists and psychologists and psychiatrists, and that shit is confusing. It's all for another video, getting to just how bad the healthcare system is in some states. But yeah, like, it's really not that easy to get a diagnosis. It's so easy to be so confused, especially when you're a kid, especially when you're a young adult. The resources are limited, okay? And if it's not, then you're privileged. So I really want to read out your comment. You said, as someone who has schizophrenia, yes, I often walk into a room and have no idea if I'm hallucinating or not, or what is real. I also have basic human empathy and can see that people have DID and struggle with it. I know what it's like to be ostracized and treated differently for my disorder, so why would I support this guy for making fun of other disorders just because I have schizophrenia? The fucking logic of this man, I swear to God. Again, it's because in his head, it's like a competition. That's literally what he was doing. He's just like, well, people who are short are going through more. People going through this physical thing are going through more. It's like, anyway, one of you guys were saying, like, it's not a competition in the live, but he literally sees it as a competition. And he thinks that what he's going through is worse. So he thinks it justifies making fun of those people. It's not okay. Like, what he did wasn't okay. He said, also afterwards, he blatantly makes fun of schizophrenics. What the fuck did we do? Again, he was trying, I don't know exactly what's going on in his head because I'm not a mind reader, but it seems like he was trying to just do one of those things where it's just like he had a joke in his head and he wanted to do it. Because he said, you know, they walk into a room and then they go, am I hallucinating? And they don't know. And right in that moment, it seems like he got an idea for a bit and he's like, well, I'm going to go do the bit now. And so it's just like, the sad thing is his comedy was good. Like a lot of these YouTube bros have the most trash fucking comedy, the laziest jokes. And his comedy was good. Like he was good with his edits. He's really good with his edits. He's got like a bunch of different edits. It's not like the same gray filter over and over again, the same flames on the screen, you know, just the same dramatic music constantly. He's using different sound effects. He's doing certain zooms. He's got different effects. He's got like little references, all this stuff. Like he put a lot of work into the comedy of it. But the problem is that the actual jokes are about like the worst thing possible. You know, like George Carlin is my favorite comedian of all time, but his shit was funny because not only was he a master at his craft, but the stuff he was saying on top of it was true. And that's what made him a legend. It was true, it was genuine, and it came from a place of good faith. So even if he wasn't right about everything that he said, because none of us are 100% right, a lot of things he said was right, and it was genuine and all that stuff that I just said. So it's all about where does your joke come from when you're criticizing someone while joking. If you're going to be critical, then your critique needs to come from those places. If it needs to be a place where, you know, it's genuine, and it especially needs to come from a place of good faith and have sound logic, or else you're going to jeopardize your comedy. So when he was making that schizophrenic joke, it honestly would have landed a lot better if he had made it in a way where he says, other people think the schizophrenia is just as simple as they walk into a room and they think, am I hallucinating? And they don't know. And then he does the joke showing that it's, you know, terrifying or whatever, or it's, you know, really stressful. That would have made the joke like 10 times better. That one, just where it's coming from, that one little thing would have made it funny. But because his whole perspective was just trash, his jokes were trash. That's why when I was first watching the video, I was like, I'm not doing this. Like, I can't sit through this bullshit because his jokes are so bad. I just hate seeing comedy wasted on some of these YouTubers because some of them got some talent and it's just sad. Anyway, so you said, also it is worth noting that schizophrenia is developed in adulthood. Teens can develop psychosis through which can eventually become schizophrenia. And that's what the expert was talking about. He said there's a lot of people who are schizophrenic or are developing schizophrenia because he's being technical. Thank you. He's basically saying, even if they're not schizophrenic, some of these kids are developing it likely. And it's like, you don't know who's who. So when you make fun of these people and you invalidate their experience, you're invalidating the experience of someone who has something as awful as schizophrenia. The thing that you're saying is so bad and is so terrifying. He showed the edit. He knows how terrifying it can be. And you're still invalidating the potential experience of those people because you didn't do any research and you don't know that people with schizophrenia can convince themselves of having a disorder, which seems like common sense to me, but he just didn't get it. Oh my God, it was just sad watching his video because he really didn't know what he was doing. Like, that dude was not coming from a place where he's like, I know, and I'm just gonna shit on him anyway. He really thought that he was on the mark, and everyone watching thinks he's on the mark. And it's just like, it's frustrating. It's as you said at the beginning of the Illuminati/Cyberstalker series, people like him choosing not to contribute anything new to internet discourse and instead choosing topics and opinions that many people are already familiar with and agree with for maximum positive long-term engagement. This person's referring to me saying that people who make agreeable content are feeding into a cycle where content is getting worse and worse on YouTube. People are getting accused and associated with pedophilia more and more often now because by only talking about issues when everyone's in agreement, you are creating a direct incentive for drama to get worse and worse because people are only in agreement when the situation is so extreme that there's not really any room for opposition. That's why I had to make my title and thumbnail so offensive because it had to stand out from everyone else being so agreeing on the subject that I was trying to call out being part of that vicious cycle. Which then brought on all the harassment and all the other stuff, and you gotta watch the series if you wanna know more about that. You said, the saddest part was reading the comments in that video, talking about Caleb's video, oompaville, where people with ADHD/DID and other disorders were thanking him for calling out the quote-unquote fakers. It doesn't sit right with me because some of the clips he showed in the video were people just informing others about certain disorders, such as a clip shown here of someone simply pointing out DID statistics. topics. Why was a video like that put in a video titled Faking Mental Disorders for Views on TikTok? He really went into it having absolutely no knowledge about anything. It says a lot about how much he truly cares about the info he puts out there. So his commenters glazing him up about the awareness he's bringing to fakers should really consider what they're supporting. I completely agree. You said that you're late. You've been catching up on the new series. Thank you. College has been a bitch. Appreciate you talking about this. I'm not sure where content like this started, but I know in the past it was a lot more in your face than it is now. Like in 2016, you could pick on children and people would eat it up. Grown-ass adults like Leafy is here made a living off of it. Nowadays, it isn't much different. The bullying is just more disguised as people have to put on a facade of caring about, quote unquote, helping people who are affected by things like this, when all it does is continue that hate cycle. It's easy content, so it makes sense why. And that you're referring to the Ouroboros cycle where content is getting worse and worse because everyone's in agreement on making fun of these people. So it's creating an incentive to do it more and more and more, which makes the situation worse and worse. And now we're getting to a point where we're accusing people with the actual disorders of faking. They want to get on people for being armchair psychologists, but they're all playing armchair detectives. It's easy content, so it makes sense why so many hop on this train. Yep, couldn't have said it better myself. I do not have TikTok and not on YouTube as much, but can see how this is not good for people that use TikTok as a safe place to express and feel support. Seriously, that's what people are there for. If you have a certain type of mental disorder, it can be comforting to find people who have similar symptoms to you because it lets you know you're not alone and you're not crazy. Like, you gotta remember that these kids are going to school, being called weird and cringy and all this stuff, and it's really terrifying. And they feel alone, and some of them don't have friends, so then they go to TikTok and then they find a community and then you just shit all over it. Like, you have no idea what they're going through because you're not on TikTok. You're not listening to these kids. A lot of these kids are victims of abuse. They can't just go to their parent and ask them, can you take me to the doctor for a diagnosis? Because they're being neglected by their parents. Like, you just don't know what's going on. Just because you see a kid wearing makeup doesn't mean they're not being neglected. Sometimes a parent will think, well, like, parents will tell their kids, I bought you this thing, so that means I care about you. But they won't help take care of any of their actual issues. Anyway, you said if you don't like it, you don't have to watch it. Love that. Thank you. I'm saying it in the nicest way possible. When I don't say it, people attack me for my structure. And I haven't been getting comments about my structure since I've been saying it. You said, seems like people, Curtis saying normal kid. I'll tell you, y'all gonna get enough of comparing this man to Curtis. Because everybody's just like, this is Curtis 2.0. This is Curtis's doppelganger. Seems like people, Curtis saying normal discredits the whole argument of support because he sees it as entertaining. Tells me all I need to know. Very disturbing that he is the voice of normal while he is making fun of kids who don't have the privilege of feeling normal. Oh my God, that is seriously over it. I swear to God, I love you so much. Like, you phrased it perfectly because it's, again, regardless of what's happening to them, they don't feel normal. They don't resonate with normal people. A lot of them are not neurotypical. Again, a lot of these kids are autistic on TikTok. A lot of them have learning disabilities. They have Asperger's. They're struggling and they can't even convey what's happening to them because of the learning disability. Again, it's a whole other video for another day. It's so sad. So this is a comment from part 1, but I'm going to read this out for part 2. I have really bad anxiety. I get like shaky and my heart pounds out of my chest, but I have no problem talking to people or doing random things in public. Rather, it's the fact that I just really cannot hold long conversations. I get randomly scared of getting into cars or going places, but doing random things in public doesn't mean that I don't have that. Exactly. Like, what I love about this comment is you're basically explaining that just because you're not having this issue 24/7 doesn't mean that it's not an issue, which is one thing that Caleb didn't understand. He was saying that people with DID are having a traumatic experience, and because he didn't see the person having a traumatic experience, they don't have DID. And it's not that the person has DID. That wasn't my point, so hopefully no one comes in trying to make that dumb point. But the point that I was making is your way of debunking that they don't have DID just invalidated a bunch of people with DID. And you're also invalidating a bunch of people with other trauma-related disorders and issues, because you're basically saying unless you can see the suffering for yourself, they're not suffering, which is the dumbest dumbest thing I've ever seen in my life. You know, and the saddest thing is he's going through some stuff right now. One of you guys was pointing out to me that he like is exposing being scammed and all this stuff. And he's talking about how during that time, even though he seemed okay, he was homeless, he was having anxiety attacks and all this stuff. And it's like, oh, so when it comes to you, you understand how you can hide your suffering, but you don't understand how these disabled people that you're bullying and making fun of are hiding their suffering, and people are supposed to sympathize with you. Like, it's really, really messed up. And I understand that the video that I did on him is old, but it's not like he ever did a follow-up and said, hey, I was kind of an asshole back then. Sorry about that, you guys. He's still reacting to TikTok to this day. So it's just, you know, TikTok cringe and all that. So it's just like, I can't. So many kids talked about how they are picked on by adults. I fake seizures, my mom said, only to find I am borderline schizophrenic as an adult. This video made me feel seen and offended at some time by oompaville. And then you respond and you said, thank you for sharing. Working with kids in mental health, where many later are schizophrenic disorder category, rarely get to track symptoms. And I think TikTok, even though brutal sometimes, can be a way doctors can view what is going on as far as actions and behaviors. It can be used as good and a way to research things doctors might not see in short office visits. Hypochondriac is faking a condition of thinking you have conditions, yet is a condition itself. And the thing is, there's that woman who everyone keeps referencing who was exposed as a liar and is a faker of Tourette's, the one with the green hair. And one of the things that they used to expose her was that they said her family didn't back up the fact that she has Tourette's. And it's like, not all families can do that. Just like with what you're saying here, like, you can't always rely on family to back up your disorder, because if you come from a narcissistic household, there's a dynamic of the golden child and the black sheep. That's another topic for another video. But if you're the black sheep, there's no way in hell your narcissistic parent is going to back up the fact that you have a disorder. And if you are being neglected by the entire family, then again, no one's going to help you with that, because they want you to be ostracized and they want you to be the problem. And unless there's a benefit in it for them, they're not going to help you with anything. So this stuff is toxic. Okay, so I want to read out some of what we were talking about in the live chat, because you guys had some interesting comments from there as well. You said, also in the US health system, sometimes you gotta fake a known disorder to get attention for your undiagnosed condition. And that's so true. And sometimes it's even encouraged for you to fake it to get the diagnosis that you need, depending on what's going on, from other professionals. It's a whole other story. Said True LJ, some professionals suggest, see even here, some professionals suggest say you have this to get in the door and hope you can get treated for the lesser known or more complex condition. I've heard that same thing, Mary Rose. Someone did that with me. Like, I literally had that suggested for me to get the proper diagnosis that I needed for something. Sometimes you don't get the psychological care unless you have a physical manifestation they can fix. Healthcare requires a known broken thing that can be mended or fixed. So again, it's just so true. And you know, I'm just going to keep moving on because I'm trying to get through the rest of this video and not make it too long. Said anything to be right on a topic for views. It's not about his take. It's about knowing people are judgy as fuck, can't wait to call out someone and agree with him. And I said, yeah, and they try to be 100% right or sound right because they're scared of their audiences. And you, Jordan, said, just how callous his tone and lack of research seems, like he is willfully ignorant. I hate when allies hurt the people they think they're allies of. Yeah. I mean, it really sucks, because it's like, on one hand, he really believed he was doing something good, but on the other hand, he didn't even put in any effort to do good. While telling people to do good, he was going through cognitive dissonance. That's all I can say. Mary said, because they want the attention and people are getting on TikTok from their mental health, even though it's support for most and attention seeking for others. Yeah. Yep, it's trendy to have a hot take even if it hurts people. Sad. And that's rampant all over YouTube these days, but YouTubers want to shit all over TikTok. It's ridiculous. It may not be harming them, but nice doesn't get them views and trolls to push in the algorithm. I said the sad thing is it could be, but it's risky and they want to play safe even when it's a safe road to hell. He said even if faking raise awareness or something else, the reason why they are faking and need support more. I said yes, they give all the attention to the fakers when they could be helping people who need it. And again, I'm not talking about donating to charity. I'm talking about helping people on TikTok who actually need the help, who cannot get help from a charity. You said, see attention, don't get mad if someone is possibly faking and wants attention, because making a video on them gets the same attention the accused faker was seeking. And even if they don't want that kind of attention, then you are, again, attacking somebody and making them irredeemable. They will do it for views and it's okay because trolls support it. Yeah, but they want to act like they're so much more moral. That's the thing that bothers me. I think making fun of TikTok is the constant stigma of TikTok being a dumb attention platform with no good things which people take at face value. Couldn't have said it better myself, Steven. And that's pretty much all I wanted to read out from the live. Just wanted to put that in the video real quick. I don't really have much more to add to that other than just saying that it's not that these people are faking, but they are just misunderstanding what's happening to them in a lot of cases. And whether they're faking or not, they are helping to destigmatize these mental health issues because they're helping to normalize it. Rather than us having a conversation about people with DID being serial killers, like that was the case for the longest time, now we're actually just having conversations about, do people actually have it or not? This is something that people struggle with every single day. So they've helped to normalize this and pave the way for people with DID to be able to talk about their issue. And that's the case for a lot of these disorders, like Tourette's and stuff like that. When you have people playing up Tourette's and making Tourette's seem really extreme and really caricature-like, it actually makes real Tourette's not seem so bad. So people who have real Tourette's don't feel as embarrassed coming out about their Tourette's. So for the record, this idea is in relation to what we call the Overton Window. It's basically the realm of acceptable ideas. It's a political term, but you can apply it here. If people showed a more extreme version of coprolalia than what it actually is, then the people with real coprolalia wouldn't be seen as extreme anymore because of the contrast. If I put this video up after part 3, then you guys already know that I have Tourette's, so I'll leave this in. But, speaking from personal experience, it's really fucking embarrassing, and I don't see anybody ticking the way that I do because I have coprolalia, and people with coprolalia are the most ashamed in the Tourette community, or whatever you want to call it, to show their tics because they're vulgar, and they're offensive, and they're embarrassing. And only 10% of people with Tourette's have it. So people like me just don't show them because there's nobody to champion that, okay? So I would love if there was a bunch of people faking coprolalia because then it would make what I do look normal. Anyway, so that's all I had to say for this. Thank you guys for watching. Tell me what you guys think about these comments and stuff, and I will see you all next time.